The options for complying with New York City's gas detection Local Law 157. So the natural gas detector must be installed within a foot of the ceiling or on the ceiling, 10 feet horizontally from the appliance within that space, and no less than 3 feet. The alarm must be labeled by UL or ETL, nationally recognized testing agencies, that it was tested and conforms with UL specification 1484. Some devices claim they conform to UL 1484, but if they are not tested and labeled, they do not meet the code. Devices must be installed by May 1st, 2025. Fines haven't been announced, but as this is life safety, most buildings plan to comply on time. So what are the options for a building to comply? They could install plug-in unmonitored devices. The initial device purchase price is low. However, as it must be installed within a foot of the ceiling, it requires an electrician to install an outlet up there. The units only last 5 years, and they require you to replace their 9-volt backup battery every 6 months. The battery unmonitored device has a low initial installation cost because it doesn't need an electrician, and there's no monitoring cost. However, it won't notify building staff, and so therefore it risks a gas shutdown. More about that in a moment. And finally, battery monitored devices, which have a low installation cost and they notify the staff immediately of a gas leak. So let's compare monitored versus unmonitored gas detectors. For unmonitored gas detectors, the natural gas detector goes off at 10% of the lowest explosion limit, and it announces, "Natural gas explosion risk detected, evacuate immediately and call 911. That relies on the tenants to call 911. And it relies on the tenants to tell 911 exactly what apartment it is in and potentially to tell their super. Because when the fire department arrives at the building, if they don't know where the gas leak is because the apartment number wasn't given, the super wasn't told, they then have to start searching through the building for where the gas leak is using their gas leak detectors. And after about 20 minutes, they will turn off the building's gas because they're afraid that the gas is built up behind the door now to an explosive level. The gas can be turned back on by the utility provided that it passes a pressure test, which means hiring a plumber to file for a plumbing permit, pull every appliance away from the wall, cap the pipes, then pressurize the building's pipes to 600% of their normal pressure, and then show a building plumbing inspector that the gas needle doesn't move at all. Well, unfortunately, it almost always moves, meaning the gas is locked off, and oftentimes the only way to solve that is to repipe the building, leaving the building months without gas and with a big bill. The other risk of unmonitored gas detection is that the gas detector goes off, but there's no one there to hear it, and the gas builds up for 5 minutes, for 10 minutes, for 20 minutes, and keeps building up until the super is told. The super then must make a decision whether he wants to go into the apartment to try to turn off the gas before the fire department gets there. But without knowing how much gas is in there, the unimaginable could happen. For monitored gas detectors, the natural gas detector notes the gas, but within 15 seconds, there's a text to the super, and within less than a minute, a live operator call in English and, if necessary, Spanish, telling the super that the gas leak is in apartment 21J, it's at the stove, and it's at 10% of what it would take to explode. That means it's safe for the super, armed with that knowledge, to go to the apartment, turn off the gas, open the window, and then go back downstairs and wait for the fire department. A hero, because there's no repiping costs or months without gas. Here's a cost comparison over 10 years for the gas detectors, and I've made some choices here that the building has a doorman, that there's 50 stoves, and that there is a 5% chance per year of a gas shutdown because the fire department isn't going to figure out quickly enough where that gas leak is. So for the plug-in unmonitored device, it's $55, which means the total device costs for the building are $62.70. That's over the 10 years. The electrical outlet, because you're going to need 2 of those devices. The electrical outlet, $17,000. The batteries and power, $4,000, meaning a $27,000 investment over the 10 years. For the unmonitored battery-powered device, and we sell these, the discounted cost, and it's not our lowest discounted, but it's a very good discount at $79, which means the total device costs are $4,500. and that's all it's going to cost because the batteries last for 10 years. The battery monitor device is $219 a piece. That means $12,000 for the devices. Installing the network so that the devices can communicate to the internet, $2,700. The subscription for the live operator to call the building and notify the building, $6,800, which means a 10-year investment of $22,000. So it seems like a no-brainer. Definitely go with a battery unmonitored device until you consider the risk. So one gas event, and I got this from a very prominent New York City non-union building plumber. The permit and testing alone is about $20,000 for this 50-unit doorman building. The repiping costs are going to be about $1 million and a temporary boiler about $50,000. So with a 5% chance per year over 10 years, that adds up to be a 50% chance that you're going to have one of these bad events over that 10 years. That means that the battery unmonitored device ends up costing $539,000 versus the $22,000 for the monitored device. Okay, then maybe not 5%. Let's go down to a 2% risk. With a 2% risk, it's still $218,000 versus $22,000. So it's not until you reduce it by a factor of 10 down to a 0.2% chance per year of a gas shutdown, and it is still more economical for the battery monitored system to be installed in the buildings. So for buildings where costs are a factor, they really need to consider a battery monitored system. ProSentry, we are risk mitigation as a service. Please contact us. We'll price up your building and give you the costs and the options. Thank you so much for your attention.